Welcome to Cinemania. I'm your host, Pasta Head Ravioli.
And I'm linguine and pasta sauce.
I'm Harvey Crumpet.
And I'm lasagna, pizzana, Gisano, ravioli.
Welcome to Angelo's Pizza.
Welcome to Pasta Talk.
Welcome to. Never mind. I'm sorry. I had a joke and I lost it. Go for it. My bad.
Think about it, just like interrupt Sam. Don't worry. Just interrupt.
Show.
Yeah, but this is Cinemania. This is the show where we talk about everything going on in the movie world. Talk about films, movies, cinema, everything. All that stuff we talk about. All of it. Before we get in the show, how are you guys doing this week? You guys doing good?
Yeah.
Hey,
Doing all right.
excited for July 10th when Saint Maud becomes the highest grossing movie of all time. Start the countdown, people.
2020.
It's Maud Day.
Maud Day. Yeah. Generations from us will be like, man, why are we celebrating Maud Day?
Like, who's
Like they pulled their history books.
Apatow? Who are we talking? Who's Maud?
I'm not going to a theater for months.
Yeah,
Back in my day.
I have a very important question for Mr. Adam Sheep. So a couple days ago, we watched Mary and Max, and after the movie, we had a discussion, and we were talking about expanding Sir Adam Cheeks beyond Pearl Jam, and
That is not all I listen to, but whatever.
and Chris Stapleton, or whatever his name is. I made a playlist for you, Adam. Did you listen to it?
I listened to about half, yes. I took a walk yesterday and got through about half of it. I was going to do the other half tomorrow. But I can tell you what I thought.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm opening it up here. I upgraded to the 3 months of Spotify Premium yesterday. So before that, it only let me listen to it on shuffle, which I think is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Going down the list. Trash.
Yeah, all trash. No, I'm just kidding. Let me see if I can remember what I listened to.
Adam, did you listen to any Wilco?
One of the songs, yeah.
There's only one
Yeah.
Wilco song.
Okay, so I listened to the songs, the first song by Neutral Milk Hotel, Wilco, Car Seat Headrest, Kanye, No Name, I think, Faye Webster, and Weyes Blood, I think is how you pronounce it.
Wise Blood.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I think that's it. They're all pretty good. I think Car Seat Headrest song is probably my favorite of the bunch.
We did it, boys.
We did it.
Probably fit in the best to my music taste. I liked all of them to some degree or another. Some of them aren't my thing.
Neutral Milk Hotel was a very risky one because that's not music for everyone. But I was like, maybe.
Let me
Okay.
hang on.
What was the Kanye West song you included?
Yeah, Neutral Milk Hotel was pretty good. I like that one.
Okay. The Kanye West song I put on there was Ghost Town.
Yeah. Which, admittedly, I'm not a fan of that album. That is probably my favorite song off the album, but then again, I haven't heard it in 2 years. Yeah, that's all I got right now, I think.
Okay. Well, I really want to know what you think about Weyes Blood, though.
It was fine. That wasn't my thing, really.
Okay. I love those kind of operatic, angelic voices. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
She's very it just fills your entire head. I love it so much. But finish the playlist, Adam, or I'll take both of your knees.
Oh no! Then I can't have my walks with the music that you assigned.
Then you can only listen to them. I'll misery your ass. And then I'll just strap headphones to your head.
Yeah, I'll listen to it tomorrow and update you guys on Saturday
All right, dope.
when we watch the movie that I picked this week.
Ooh, all right.
So what have you been watching, Adam?
Speaking of movies, everybody, what are you guys watching this week? What have you been watching?
Do y'all mind if I go? I don't know
You
if
guys
somebody
can
else wants to go first.
Have at it.
So I'm using my phone to record, so I made a list on an old receipt paper of all the things I watched so I wouldn't forget. So, first of all, I finished all of the seasons of Better Call Saul that are available on Netflix. It took me 3 months, but I did it. And at this point, I haven't seen season 5, which just wrapped up a few weeks ago. At this point, I'd say Better Call Saul is a better show than Breaking Bad by a pretty sizable margin. And I love Breaking Bad. I think Breaking Bad's a great show. I tried rewatching it when quarantine started, or maybe even earlier than that. And some of it does not hold up as well as I would like it to. It's definitely a product of its time. And as of right now, Better Call Saul, it's the way I describe it is like Breaking Bad, something interesting and engaging and shocking needs to happen every episode, especially in the later seasons, right? Things just happen all the time. And they're very explosive, they're very dramatic, they're very just crazy and out there. And then in Better Call Saul, I would argue nothing super shocking happens until the very end of season 1, literally the last scene of season 1. But it's still good and interesting and engaging, but doesn't get to a shocking or dramatic moment until that very end. And so the show is a lot of slow burning fuses that are all coming towards one point, and it's seeing how each one turns and crosses over each other, and you think one's going down, another one comes back up. And so then when one finally does go off, when there is an explosive, dramatic, crazy moment, it is that much more effective. And because you know these characters so well and they're so well developed, that when things happen, it hits a lot more. And it seems way more interesting and engaging to me. I am blanking on the actress's name, but the actress that plays Kim Wexler, who is sort of the other main character of the show, is simply incredible. I went into the show thinking Bob Odenkirk would be the main event, but Kim Wexler is probably my favorite character on that show, and her actress steals any scene she's in and has some of the most incredible moments on that entire show. And I can't wait to watch season 5 whenever it comes to Netflix, whenever I get a chance. And season 6 has already been approved, and it's going to be the last season. So I can't wait to see how they wrap it up, because the end of season 4 really sets up the beginning of Saul Goodman and that character and persona of Saul Goodman. And seeing how he gets to that point is so fascinating. I highly recommend it, obviously, but I'm super into it.
So I think we talked about this when you first started watching it. I think it was one of the first episodes we did on the podcast. We were talking about the black and white sequences, and I wanted to know if they continued and did they drive home the story even further.
So kind of, it's weird. They only have them at the beginning of each season.
Mm-hmm.
They always start each season with the black and white sequences showing Saul Goodman in the modern day after the events of Breaking Bad. And it's sort of like a reminder of where the story's going in a way, and showing, it's almost like juxtaposing the entire series, where he's much older, he's in a much sadder position, he is someone who has to really hide and not really be himself, or at least how he normally portrays himself in the show. And so I'm still not 100% sure why they've made that decision. It doesn't fully mesh with the show just yet, but I still really like those sequences. They're almost like mini El Caminos. they're kind of like unnecessary, but they're nice to see like where the characters are at.
Do you think it's going to end with Jesse Pinkman showing up?
No. I haven't read the article, but I saw a headline where Vince Gilligan is like, yeah, we're not planning on a Breaking Bad reunion, which I really, really think would kill any momentum the show has. I think introducing Walter White or Jesse Pinkman, or even Walter's brother-in-law, Paul, right? Isn't that Paul, or what's his brother's name? Anyway, introduce his brother,
Hank.
who's Hank. I'm thinking Paul Schrader, very different. Hank Schrader. Hank, I think introducing any of them would be going too far, because they already have two characters from the original. They have three characters besides Saul Goodman in this show from Breaking Bad, but they are very well connected and are clearly connected to Saul Goodman's story that it's worth it. Like, they clearly have made their place in the show and have become like ongoing characters and narratives that sort of play into everything. But I think adding any more might be like, yeah, I just think it would really suck if like the show ends, like the last scene is like Walter White watching a Saul Goodman commercial and being like, man, what a phony. Who would hire a lawyer like that? You know, like some stupid shit like that. Like, I just think that would totally kill the show. It would almost ruin the entire thing.
Yeah, that would be really, really, really dumb. But doesn't, at the end of El Camino, isn't he going to the same area as where he's at? So
I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
I'm really not sure. Because I know they end up in like the same situation that Walter does at the end of season 4, or at the end of Breaking Bad, or near the end. So, but I don't know if that leads them to the same spot. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, I don't know if they're driving off to the same place. They might be going to different places, but they just have the same drop-off point.
Interesting.
So, but
I might give it a watch.
yeah, I really, really recommend it. It's a good show. It's a good time. Just like, I would say power through to like the second season, because that's when things really like get going, and all the plates they've been spinning start like connecting and making more sense and like getting more engaging. But yeah. Do you have a question, Brandon? I'm sorry, I feel like I cut you off.
I was just gonna ask about like a possible Malcolm in the Middle and Better Call Saul crossover, or like how, I don't know, where he like kills his entire family. He's like, man, I gotta get started with my new life. I better call Saul, and then just cut the black.
That would be a lot better,
right?
Than what I suggested.
Like, they bring Frankie Muniz back. They bring back I don't know, his like mom, his like little, exactly. They bring them all back, and they de-age them.
It costs more. That one scene costs more than The Irishman.
Combined, like the Irishman. What is The Irishman, like 150? The whole scene costs 151, and like it's literally
75% of this is Frankie Muniz.
Exactly, and the whole episode, because like, all right, so basically how season 6 goes is like, okay, Better Call Saul, yeah, Saul, but then the last episode, the series finale, it begins in the Malcolm in the Middle house. And then it's just like a Malcolm in the Middle episode for the entire thing. It's a Malcolm in the Middle episode. But then at the end of it, he just like loses his shit. How loses his shit, just kills everybody. And he's like, yeah, that's where he calls Saul. And then
he like looks on the TV and Saul's like, hey. He's like, Better Call Saul, cut to black.
Yeah.
No music.
Malcolm in the Middle already had a perfect ending, though.
It did.
But that's for another day.
The perfect show, too. Perfect show, too.
Yeah. Frankie Muniz.
Huh?
Frankie Muniz remembers none of it.
Yeah.
So, talk about, I can't connect this. I had an interesting weekend of films. I watched a lot of movies about lesbians in a row, which is a fun time. I started with But I'm a Cheerleader with Natasha Lyonne in it.
So good.
It's pretty good. What?
Have you seen it before, or was this your first time?
No, I'd never seen it. but I knew it's a movie that existed, but I knew nothing about it, like, at all.
Yeah.
And then I saw it was on the Criterion Channel. I'm like, oh, Natasha Lyonne. Like, all right, I'll watch this. Like, fuck yeah. It's weird. I don't know if the humor always worked for me. Like, I think it might be a little bit too over the top for me sometimes, a little bit too campy. But I really appreciate it. Like, I really admire what it was doing, especially in the 90s.
Yes.
Like I mean, especially for 1999, where Landon and Adam, do you know the film But I'm a Cheerleader?
I know the name. That's about it.
So, well, the plot is really interesting because Natasha Lyonne is this cheerleader in like a very conservative family in a conservative town, and they all suspect that she's gay, and so they basically force her to go to like a
Re-education camp.
there you go, yeah,
Oh, no.
a re-education camp,
Oh no.
and well, it's funny because the movie's very like campy. Like I would compare it to like a John Waters movie, but like not gross.
Yeah.
Like a little more toned down. And it's sort of like one of the things I like about it. It's weird. The humor doesn't always work for me, but I really admire how exaggerated everything is. Yet it never like everybody is like a stereotype. Everybody is playing into a type. A lot of the gay men are very flamboyant. You know, a lot of the gay girls are playing into certain stereotypes. But the only people that sort of have jokes against them are the people that are running the Reformation camp.
Right. That makes
The ones
sense.
sort of get the butt of the jokes a lot of the time. And the movie is really in support of these characters and of respecting them and their relationships and acknowledging that, like, you know, people do go beyond these stereotypes, that there is a lot more to people beyond just I'm gay. It's like, well, yeah, Natasha Lyonne is gay, but she's also a cheerleader. She has other interests outside of that. And like, it's
Yeah.
just, and I think it's like looking into it, it was a movie that was not well received when it came out. And a lot of the criticisms came down to people saying that like it wasn't taking the subject matter seriously. But that it's funny, that comedy, that humor that it has is what I really admire about it. Because I think there are a lot of films about LGBTQ issues that are very serious and feel like they need to be like prestige material or need to have a tragic ending or like something happen, which is great and all and is important. But just as the movie shows, there's so much more to LGBTQ people than just, oh, we can never be in love because society won't allow it, you know? There are a lot of gay people that are very happy and very like in love and in relationships and living a good life. And it's good to show that side of it, you know? Like that's kind of how I feel about Love, Simon. Like Love, Simon isn't the greatest movie, but I admire it for being a like, you know, a high school light comedy about a gay character.
Do
And
you
I think
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut
go
you
ahead,
off.
go ahead.
Do you think that a lot of those criticisms from when it originally came out was because it was kind of a hot button issue and the idea of having something humorous around an issue like that was kind of offensive back then?
I mean, I would argue that a homosexual reform camp might be more of a controversial issue today than it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
Though having gay characters in a movie might have been more controversial in the 90s, quite honestly. Or a movie specifically about like gay people and their experiences might have been more controversial then. So I think ultimately, I think what you're saying could lead into it, right?
Yeah.
I think that could be a part of it is people being like, you know, how dare you make light of this controversial issue? Like I feel like it would be like if Let's Be Cops came out like tomorrow. It'd be like, this is not the time for that. Like, no, this is not okay, right? Don't know if it was okay then anyway, but still, like, especially right now, it's like not the time. But I think it does hold up pretty well. I think it is still a really funny movie, and it's like one I really appreciate, and I think it does ultimately end like in a very sweet way. And it's just a good time, honestly. It's just a really fun movie. It's a good time to watch. I get its cult status. I get why it's still a popular movie to this day. Also, Dante Brasco is in it, the voice of Zuko in The Last Airbender. And it's very weird to hear Zuko's voice come out of a very flamboyantly gay character. To go,
Zuko is gay, bro.
Well, it's more like to go from someone who's very brooding and like serious for most of the time I'm with that character, to someone who is very like goofy and very like out there. You know,
Mhm.
it's very different and very weird.
Sam, do you know who else is in the movie?
Who else?
Our favorite fracker, RuPaul.
I know. I couldn't believe that it was RuPaul. I was looking for them. I was like, where are they? And then I looked at the credits and I was like, wait, that was RuPaul. Like, okay, got it.
Yeah.
A lot's changed.
I feel like it's a really interesting film, especially because I feel like if it was released 10 years later, I feel like it would be looked at like a lot differently. It would be looked at as, I think it'd be looked at kind of as like a satire of a lot of, especially like a lot of Disney Channel like film movies or whatever. Because if you look at like the especially with like, because some of like I feel like her parents like living room, they look straight out of like Even Stevens. The production design is very, very like campy, like you said, or very like zany. It looks like something out of a John Waters movie. And I feel like it predicted like the wave of kind of like 2000s gross out comedies really well, like American Pie, where sexuality like barely even addressed at all, with a lot of characters who would like who seemed like they were forced into like heterosexual like kind of norms. And I think it's really interesting looking back at it in retrospect, because it came out in '99 before like American Pie and like I guess what's the one with Freddie Prinze Jr. I don't know,
I don't know.
like that. Like about a lot of those films, it came before a lot of those films and was kind of very, very kind of. It would have, if it came out 10 years later, it would have looked at a lot differently, which I think. Is
I agree with you 100% there. Yeah, and then that's why it's been considered more of a cult classic now than anything, and I think it deserves that status 100%. I do recommend it though. Very good movie. Really enjoyed it. Might watch it again soon. Quite honestly, it's very fun. And then I was, I watched a movie about lesbians. I was like, let me watch another movie about lesbians. So I watched Portrait of a Lady on Fire again. I still cried at the end. It's still probably the best movie of 2019 that I saw in 2020. Probably still the best movie of 2020 that I've seen that was released this year. I just don't know what else to say about it. Like, honestly, if you haven't seen this movie yet and you you're doing yourself a disservice. Okay, I'll just say this though. That movie is some of the greatest like fucking comebacks that I've ever heard. Like someone like it was funny because when it starts, they're like, Cannes film like the Cannes Award for Best Screenplay, and I was like, that's funny. I feel this movie's more of like a visual thing. I find that interesting. And then I'm watching, I'm like, oh, that's why I got Best Screenplay. All right, like cool, got it. Like
it's like a low key funny movie.
Yeah, no, there's my favorite sequence of the whole movie is when it's early on when they're painting Eloise. They're painting her portrait. And she's like, and she's kind of like laughing, and she's like, oh, they're kind of talking about like the painter is like, oh, I notice all these little things about you. Like I notice you do this when you feel this way, you move your brow, you do this thing. And she kind of clearly is coming at it from like I know you, like I know all about you, like I got you. And then Eloise is like, okay, when you're looking at me, who do you think is looking at you? Who do you think is paying attention to you while we're sitting here painting this portrait? She's like, you do this, and you do this, and it's so well done because it's like a wide shot of both of them, but you still see those facial tics, you still see the things she's doing, and it's like, oh my god, dude. It's so great. Like it's such an incredible film. And like
also when they're like I forget what her name is, but like the person that lives with them, I forget what her name is.
Like caretaker or whatever.
The caretaker, yeah. When she's trying to like, this is gonna sound weird, but like when she's trying to like force the miscarriage and she's doing all those like things.
Yes.
It's so funny. Like when she's running on the beach, them like push her back and forth, and then like when she's hanging in the background.
It just falls.
Yeah.
But my favorite one when they're running is when she's like running towards Eloise, and she's like running, and she doesn't even make it all the way, and Eloise just like backs up a little bit, just like.
It's so good. It's such like the humor is. I feel like you don't really notice the humor the first time you watch it, because like I didn't really notice it, but the second time I watched it, I was like,
this was kind of funny.
This is kind of funny. Why wasn't this nominated for Best Comedy Movie at the Golden Globes?
I also love one moment that I didn't know if it was gonna work at home was when they go to the bonfire, and they have the women there begin to sing that song.
Mhm.
And I wasn't sure if it was gonna work at home, because it's such like in theaters is this experience that like totally enwraps you, and just like it's such a jarring experience. It's so hard to describe without having seen the movie, right? But then like it just happened. Like I'm just in my room with like my speakers, like my shitty speakers, and it happened, and I still got like goosebumps. I was like, oh no, like it's a good movie, fuck, like oh no.
Yeah, it just booms, you know. Even like you said, even on your like home speakers, it's just like this booming presence.
Am I going to watch it again? Probably. Am I going to wait until I get the Criterion Blu-ray? We'll see.
One of the best covers.
Dude, that's my next big purchase is.
Do you want that? Do you want the Criterion?
Do I want it?
No. Well, yeah. I mean, I was asking Landon, but Sam, I can get it for you too if you want it. But Landon, do you want it?
You can get it for me.
Nah, I'm good.
You sure, bud?
Yeah.
Let me know.
I don't fuck around with empty promises, buddy.
Oh, bud, I'm telling you. Francis Ha and shit. What was the other one? Harold and Maude. Harold and Maude are coming in.
Brandon for my birthday last year was like, hey, I'm gonna get you like Francis Ha on Criterion. I was like, dope. Birthday came and went, and I was like, I'm just not gonna bring it up to him. It's fine. And then he was like, hey, like, what do you want for Christmas? And I was like, I really like Harold and Maude a lot. He was like, oh, I'll get it for you on Criterion. Christmas came and went and didn't bring it up. And then I was like, man, Brandon's really like just offered these things all the time, like those 2 times. And it was just like, I don't know, man. It's time to call him out on it.
All right. Well, let me just tell you what happened. I'm gonna bring both of them in, and then you're gonna be really surprised. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen.
Okay.
It's gonna come in like a stack of them.
Exactly.
Here's the fucking movies.
Here's Christmas 2019. Here's birthday 2019.
Exactly.
Christmas 2020.
I got the receipts, okay?
It's like 30.
You don't have to worry about it though. I just like teasing you about it.
No, Landon. The day's gonna come. I'm telling you.
Okay.
The day's gonna come. Anyway, sorry, Sam. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to end and say Portrait of a Lady on Fire is one of the greatest. It's coming up there as one of the greatest movies ever made. And I also believe that Celine Sciamma is just an incredible filmmaker that I've been sleeping on for a long time. I found this out when I watched her films in preparation to watch Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So I watched Tomboy and I watched Girlhood, which are incredible fucking movies. So woke up the next morning after Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and I was like, you know what? I haven't seen Water Lilies. So I watched Water Lilies, and it's crazy how so Water Lilies is Celine Sciamma's worst movie. It is also better than the majority of films that come out like every year. Like it's still one of the best. Like it's still an incredible movie. But it's crazy that she started her feature film career at such a high note with Water Lilies. Which if you don't know, Water Lilies, it is a film it's like a coming of age story of a young French girl who's just discovering her homosexuality. And so the woman that plays Eloise in Portrait of a Lady on Fire plays the woman or plays the girl that the main character is infatuated with, and sort of imply that she might be like her first love. And it's a really, really well told and interesting story about gender norms and the sort of the performance of gender and how it specifically affects women and their relationships, while also being a really good coming of age story. And like, I don't know, man, it's just a really great movie. It's really engaging. It's really well done. There's some great shots, some great moments. There's a really great sequence in a nightclub that I really, really liked. I don't know if you remember that, Brandon, at all. But they go to this nightclub, and it's like one of the few times or first times they're really getting close with each other. And the camera's like it starts out like a wide shot of them dancing, like kind of far apart, and then it's a close-in shot where both of their heads, like in profile, fill the edges of the frame, and they're getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer as the beat is about to drop, like it's building and building and building, and then right when it drops, like the woman who played Heloise in Portrait of a Lady sort of like pulls her head back, and then it like immediately cuts to the wide shot, and she's dancing with a guy, like just like totally with them, and the main character is just sitting there by herself and just is totally alone, and it's so good. It's so, oh my god, it's so great. It's a really great film. I really
That
recommend.
scene, you describing that scene gave me chills.
So, oh my god, there's another great sequence because the whole idea is that like Heloise, I'm not just gonna call her Heloise because I forget the actress's name and I feel bad for it. But Heloise is like she's a part of a what's it called, a synchronizing swimming team. And
Yeah, I think that's what they're called. Just that.
yeah, and so like the film begins by seeing their performance, and like on the top they're like effortless, they're smiling, they're like not even like moving a muscle, whatever. And then there's a scene later on where the main character like dives underwater while they're like practicing, and you see how much like athleticism is going on below the surface, and like how like they're moving their legs all the time. There's constantly things happening. They're clearly like in shape in order to do this. And they clearly know like this is clearly something they've been working on for years and practicing at and like nailing just so they can look effortless on the surface and not even get fully recognized by like judges. Like it's, and of course that leads into how women always have to perform a certain way and present a certain way, and it's a whole thing. It's great.
I feel like this film is very unnoticed when talking about like, it's not like a film about like sports or anything or like athletic. Well, it kind of is about athletics or being athletic or whatever. But I think this film is like should be talked about more in regards to like sports, especially like women in sports, and
Yes.
how there's such a like incredibly large double standard when it comes to it. Because that scene in particular, when she dives under it, like it's so like there's so much, like you said, there's so much athleticism, but there's also so much more like work. And they're that's expected of them. There's so much that's expected of them. There's so much kind of like there's so much effort and so much like I don't know. You explain it perfectly, but I just find that scene so incredible, especially towards the end of it too. Like where it's unbelievable. And I think that's why because I feel like this. I don't know. I think it's probably like my third favorite film of hers, honestly, behind like Girlhood and Portrait. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's like her least best film, but I love it.
Do you not like Tomboy that much?
I love it. I just think it's like not her worst one, but like
Right. Well, I say worst more as like extreme. I don't like, it's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination, but like I would rank her movies by order of release, where like my least favorite of hers is Water Lilies, and then it's Tomboy, and then it's Girlhood, and then it's Portrait of a Lady, where she's literally getting better with every film, even though she already started at like 4 stars, and then she gets up to a 5-star movie.
yeah.
You know, like
you
Girlhood might even be a 5-star movie. Honestly, I might rewatch it. Girlhood is,
yeah.
Sorry?
You could see her growth throughout like her entire filmography, and like she has this like trait because she never lets any space within the frame go to waste.
Yes.
Something's always happening, and you always kind of are getting something out of the character, something out of like the plot, something out of like you're always getting something. You never she never wastes any space in regards to like her like her frames or whatever. And like I just think she's so brilliant in regards to that. But yeah, you can definitely see her growth, honestly.
Yeah, and I think she does an amazing job at like expressing so much about a character by not only the performances, but like the lighting and just the scenery and the set, and like every part of the film is working to get you in the head of these characters and to understand them. Like one of my favorite things she's ever filmed is the sequence in Girlhood where she's talking to a guy. It's like early on, I think, first like 30 minutes, and she's talking to this one guy that she has a crush on or is into, and she initiates the conversation, right? And they have the conversation. They're flirting. There's clearly like a mutual thing going on, and she's like, "All right, well, I'll see you." She's about to walk out, like leave, and then he continues the conversation and is like chastising her, and it's like trying to like downplay the flirting they just did. And it's like, hey, I know your brother. He's not going to like it if we're together. Like, this is not going to work out. And then it ends with him saying goodbye to her as she walks away, you know? And it's literally, and like, I don't know if it's one take. It feels like one take. I don't know if it is for sure. But it just is a clear, like, it's literally showing, like, the way roles reverse between men and women and the way they go about doing things and how she loses power within the situation and what that does to her. And like, it's so good. Like, I could, if you gave me enough time, I could probably like teach a fucking class on that scene, you know? Like, that's just how good of a filmmaker she is. And I wish I'd watched her stuff sooner. I really wish I'd gotten into her sooner and didn't have to wait till Portrait to understand how great she was. But yeah, Celine Sciamma, one of the greatest filmmakers of our time. I'm calling it.
Yeah, she's up there.
She's up there. And then we'll end off my movies on a very different note. So y'all know the movie The Greasy Strangler?
I remember you
Oh
mentioned
yeah,
it.
yeah. We talked about that.
So The Greasy Strangler, I don't know if it's a good movie. I don't know if I enjoyed watching it, but it's one of the most unique films ever made. That is specifically designed to gross you out and be uncomfortable in ways that no other film has ever done, I would argue. And it's kind of amazing because it's such a singular, unique vision that really dedicates to like Tim and Eric meets like, I'm thinking like a torture porn movie, like super extreme, not even violence, just like John Waters meets Tim and Eric meets like Hostel. I don't know, just something super weird and like violent and upsetting. But like, imagine if it was kind of funny. So that guy, I'm forgetting his name. That guy made another movie a couple of years ago called An Evening with Beverly Luff Lynn that I've been meaning to watch for a while. Turns out it's on Netflix. So I was like, all right, boys, here we go. So I watched An Evening with Beverly Luff Lynn, so right off the bat, I think it's a better movie than The Greasy Strangler. I don't know if I prefer it yet. I have to think about it more. It's a more subdued movie. There is only one sequence in the film I could describe as gross out, and it's not even that bad in comparison to The Greasy Strangler. Like, there's literally one scene in the whole movie that I think I would consider gross or like offensive or whatever. But the film stars Aubrey Plaza and Jermaine Clements, and the idea
What?
is, yeah,
How
no,
can I heard this movie?
I know, right? And so the idea is that Aubrey Plaza is married to Emile Hirsch, right? Yeah.
Isn't Craig
And
Robinson in the movie?
sorry,
Craig Robinson?
Yeah.
I'm getting there. Yeah, Craig Robinson's in it. So the idea is that she's married to this guy who's just a real piece of shit. He's like very like boisterous, very loud, very like in your face type of guy, and she hates the marriage. But then her husband robs her brother, or her brother, so his brother-in-law, and he finds out about it, and he hires some random guy to go and take the money back. That guy played by Jermaine Clements. And so Aubrey Plaza sees this opportunity to like escape. So she basically like takes the gun from Jermaine Clements and is like, all right, we're going to get in your car. we're gonna go to this hotel where this guy named Beverly Luff Lynn, played by Craig Robinson, is gonna perform at something called a magical evening with Beverly Luff Lynn. And no one knows what it is. No one knows what it's gonna happen. But it's a shitty town, so everyone's there to see it. And she won't even explain why she wants to go, but she has some very personal reasons for wanting to go. And from there, it's just kind of a weird comedy because everybody talks in very like stilted, almost like Yorgos Lanthimos style dialogue. But they're like, the situations are just way more bizarre and like out there. And it took me a while to get on the movie's wavelength. I'm going to be honest. It took me a minute because I still wasn't quite understanding what it was trying to do. But then I watched a review that I think really did a good job of like putting it in perspective, where this reviewer said that she thinks this director's movies, like the characters in his films, are like representations of like very strong emotions and how we try to hide them and like how we try to bubble them inside. Like the way she compares it is like watching one of his movies is like having that thought like at the end of the day when you're going to bed and you're like sitting there thinking about your day and you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. That was a really dumb thing to do. And it's like the movie is that. The movie is like that feeling of like awkwardness of like making the wrong choice and then like trying to hide your embarrassment and like trying to like keep it in. And like everybody's doing that. Like everybody is like that until they like just blow up at like a random thing, just letting all their emotions out at like some random thing that doesn't matter. And it leads to very funny and weird moments. And the soundtrack is super odd. It's like a weird like synthy thing. I don't know. But it's a really good movie that, unlike The Greasy Strangler, ends. It's a movie that has a lot of heart and it's really genuine. Where like The Greasy Strangler was endearing because it's like clearly a low budget movie with no name actors. That's like really endearing just because it got made. While An Evening with Beverly Luff Lynn is really good because it has a heart. The film is like very heartwarming by the end, which I wasn't expecting, but it's like really well done. I don't know.
I really want to watch this now. I don't know why, but like
I would definitely recommend it. It's not great, it's not amazing, but it's like really well done. It's very unique. Also has a weird connection to climax, which I was not expecting. Where I won't spoil it, but like just pay attention to the music. That's all I'll say. Just pay attention to the music in certain scenes. But it's really, really good. Very weird. Very interesting. Aubrey Plaza is great. Jermaine Clemens is great. Craig Robinson is great. Everybody in the movie is just super, super good. It's a great job. And
I love Craig Robinson's to be in more movies.
Yes.
He's a great like comedic actor.
Hot Tub Time Machine?
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Have you seen
I don't know
more?
if the second one's good, but I remember liking the first one a lot. I don't know if it holds up, but
What were you saying?
Morris from America.
I have not
North from
seen it.
America's good.
sorry, what was that? Which one?
Morris from America. It's one. It's him. He's playing like this. Actually, wait, when was it made? In 2013.
No, it was like 2016.
Really?
Yeah.
It's an A24 movie, right?
And DirecTV.
Oh,
Ooh, DirecTV, you say?
DirecTV, yeah.
now I'm sold.
Huh?
Now I'm sold.
Now you're sold. See, A24. See, you know what would have made Midsummer really good? If you were watching it with a big old DirecTV dish. That's what would have made it perfect.
You know what I found out recently?
What?
A24 put out Tusk.
Yeah.
I never realized that before.
Tusk isn't a bad movie.
It's probably one of Kevin Smith's best movies.
That is false, but it's not a bad movie.
Is it better than Yoga Hosers?
It's better than Yoga Hosers, but Kevin Smith is kind of a genius.
Oh no, definitely. But like he's
Mallrats,
yeah. Clerks.
laugh. Dogma, hilarious.
Um,
Jay and Silent Bob, the original one is okay.
Chasing Amy is also good.
Chasing Amy is really problematic.
I think it's good though, but yeah, it's very problematic. But I think it's a good movie. It's one of his like more kind of like more sincere films. I feel like, even though I feel like it's problematic. But like, what film made in 2000 like or in the 2000s wasn't problematic? Honestly,
Yeah, you're right.
Clerks.
Huh? Clerks is one of those movies where it's like, is this a huge accomplishment? Yes. Is it a good movie? Not really. The pacing of that movie is terrible.
You know what is good? Clerks the
Clerks
animated series.
Huh?
Clerks the animated series.
I have not seen that.
It got like half a season and was canceled and is great. One of the first episodes is a bottle episode where they're like remembering shit that like, oh, remember when this happened, as if it was like an actual thing. And it's like way before other shows were doing that. This is like the early 2000s, maybe even late.
That's
90s.
crazy.
Yeah.
Clerks 2 is great.
I haven't seen it.
But Tusk is a weird movie. But I like it a lot.
Really interesting video this weekend comparing Red State, Tusk, and Yoga Hosers. Because those are the 3 films that Kevin Smith made like in a row, and they're all like horror movies technically. And it was really interesting because it's like Red State. Sorry?
What was the first one?
Red State.
It's
Okay.
not good.
Okay.
Well, it was interesting because like the way the video was talking about it was like Red State was a genuine attempt to make a horror movie, and then Tusk was like a response to like the backlash that Red State got, and then Yoga Hosers was a response to the backlash that Tusk got, where he just keeps giving less of a shit with each movie, where he's like yeah, man, Red State, I'm going horror, I'm going for it. And people are like, I don't know if it worked that well. And he's like, all right, here's a dude with a fucking, who wants to become a walrus. And you're like, all right, that wasn't good. And he's like, all right, here's my fucking daughter kicking German bratwurst. All right, fuck it, this is what you get now.
Will he ever make a good movie again?
Sorry?
Will he ever make a good movie again?
I mean,
New Jay and Silent Bob movie is not terrible.
You watch
yeah.
it?
Huh?
You watch it?
I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, shit.
But I heard
We're
it
also
was
working
bad.
on a He-Man animated series that's supposed to be good, so. Or at least, it's early production, so who knows, but we'll
I
see.
think he's a good writer. I think you should write more movies and not direct movies.
He's also a good personality. He's a great storyteller.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever watched The Death of Superman Lives?
Yeah.
What?
The one by John, the guy who died.
Yeah, John, what's his last name? The Collider guy.
Yeah. The only good person on Collider.
Huh?
The only good person on Collider.
He was like the heart and soul of Collider, and then he passed away, and then it just became a cesspool of terrible takes.
And people.
And people that are so entitled that
John Schnepp. I remember him.
was it John Schnepp?
John Schnepp, yeah.
Yeah, he made a documentary called "The Death of Superman Lives," and it was about that.
Superman movie.
Oh yeah.
And it's a fascinating documentary. And Kevin Smith is in that documentary a lot, and you can see how much passion that he like was trying to put into this movie, because like I think he co-wrote it.
Mhm.
I believe he co-wrote this movie.
I produced it too, if not. Yeah.
Yeah. And he like you'd see how much passion he put into it, and like all of these like huge ideas that he put into it. And it was just like, it really sucks that it never got to be what it was supposed to be. It's just like, damn. I want Kevin Smith to write a superhero movie. I really do.
He's writing a lot of comics.
His comics I haven't read, but they might be good. I don't know.
But
Remember when Kevin Smith got backlash because he said Batman versus Superman isn't that great?
God. He is right.
Oh Lord.
I say that having never seen Batman versus Superman.
BVS is garbage.
I've seen a lot of clips from it. I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of people talk about it.
Yeah, it's
like
garbage.
basics, yeah.
Grandma's peach tea.
Oh, remember when Jesse Eisenberg pissed in a jar and Holly Hunter drank it?
How did he get the jar up there?
I don't know.
How did he fill up that big of a jar?
I think
How did he put a jar that says Grandma's pea or Grandma's peach tea on into this congresswoman's jury or like whatever they were?
here's what he did. He sat across the room and peed, and the pee went an arch, and he peed into the glass.
He's got range.
He has
How did he get the little tag that said Grandma's peach tea on it?
He got Donald Trump to put it on there.
He used to be a basketball player. He just shot it from across the room from where he peed.
No, he what he did is that he ate it, so it would come out with its pee.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Right out the pee hole. That's how men poop.
Yeah, that's how they pee. Like we don't know who this guy down there is an alien, bro. We don't know how that works.
No, the Flash, he put it on there. Just no one could see him. The flashlight put it on there, and then just ran.
That'll be revealed in the Snyder cut, obviously.
It's
That
gonna-
Flash just
Everything.
It's going to be amazing.
Do you remember when they released like the director's cut of Batman vs Superman, and it made the movie even more boring?
yes.
Like it fixes a lot of plot holes. Yes, it fixes plot holes, I guess, but then like also now it's so much more boring.
Yeah.
But hey,
But
Ben Affleck
hey,
put his heart and soul into that movie.
Yeah, he did.
He really tried. Like he legitimately tried.
That Batman scene is really good too. I'd stand by to the day I die. It's the best part of the movie. It's the only good part of the movie. Like that scene where he's in the warehouse is really good.
Yeah. Also, like the opening scene isn't that bad. Like where it shows the opening scene where it shows Ben Affleck driving up to Metropolis, and he's like seeing all the shit that's happening. It's like genuinely a pretty great scene.
Yeah.
Oh, Sam has left the building.
Bye, Sam.
So
yeah.
we're talking about Batman versus Superman. It's time for me
I
to
don't want spoilers.
go. Oh my god.
But yeah. BVS.
With his movies?
I think so.
I can just, because I have like a few. I only did 2, so I can just talk about mine.
Okay.
So I watched Malcolm X, Spike Lee's film Malcolm X. Any of you guys seen it before?
I
Still
have,
hasn't.
but I'm gonna carve out a day for me to watch it because it's a long movie.
It's 3 hours and 21 minutes.
Yeah.
I think it leaves Netflix today.
Oh, never mind then. Guess I'll never see it.
I'll never see it. But yeah, I watched that, and it's fucking incredible. I think it's his best movie, honestly. However, The Five Blood gives a run for its money, honestly. I think it's good, but I think it's comparatively it's really good. But Malcolm X, though, I think other than it was his first epic up until The Five Bloods, because it's really, really, aside from the length of it and everything, it's just so huge and tells like such a huge story, and it covers so much of his life. And it's like a really fucking big movie. Like in the first, it covers a lot of ground in his life within the first 15, 20 minutes of it. And there's one scene, it's also some of the best cinematography in the Spike Lee movie too. Like there's a scene in the beginning where you see the KKK going to Malcolm X's house, or when he was a child.
Oh, with the moon? I've seen that shot. Yeah.
And it's I was so fucking surprised. I was like, holy shit, this is a big fucking movie. And it's really, it looks expensive too. It's so expensive. It looks so expensive. The production design is brilliant. There's so much in the film that you can dissect. And I might recommend it honestly in the future. So I want to kind of just keep it to myself for a little bit. But yeah, I think it's his best film, honestly. But yeah, I watched Malcolm X, and I watched a lot of. I think have any of you guys ever watched Chef's Table?
no.
Already?
But I have seen Chef.
Chef's Table is not better than Chef. I'll say that. But Chef's Table, really good. Have I talked about the show before?
I don't know if you talked about it on the show. I think you talked about it with us. I think you talked about it on air.
Okay. Well, Chef's Table, each episode centers around a chef and their journey to the like making of the restaurant they are like currently own and like work in. And they're all like so interesting. They take a really cinematic approach to like it's a documentary filmmaking about like and there's this episode I watched the other day was about this woman who is from Savannah. She's a Black woman, and it's like really tells her like the story of her entire life growing up in Savannah, Georgia, and her parents moving out of it, going to New York for a better opportunity for her to give her a better life. And because her parents went through segregation and civil rights and everything, and told her all the stories about it and everything. So she works in New York City, and she is a social worker, but she gets fired because she's really depressed and sad, and she can't do her job, and she just like is so dejected. And so one of her friends recommends she becomes a cook. So she goes to France and learns about the art of learns culinary arts for like 2 years, and she goes back to Savannah, Georgia, and buys a former segregated bus station and turns it into a restaurant. And it's these stories that are like they seem like something out of a film, like, but they're all true stories, and it's about like, and each episode is so interesting, and it's like, and I think you guys will be into it too because they're actually pretty epic too, like on a grand scale. Like there's shots in especially the episode when they're like in the bayous and looking for like shrimp and crawfish, and they're like really big shots of her just kept on boats like going down like rivers and everything. And I just think it's so unique because I've never really seen like a show like that where it's like 60 minutes, but it's that in depth and that interesting.
Didn't you compare it to Hero Dreams of Sushi? We were talking about it a couple weeks ago.
I would.
Okay, yeah, because I love that documentary, so I probably love this show as well.
Watch it. Like, so I think you would like. Watch. It's. I think it's the newest episode, honestly. So yeah, watch that one and see if you like it. And like, but I think you'll love it, honestly. Like, it's so good. But yeah. Okay. But yeah, that's what I've been watching. Sorry, Sam, if we interrupted you.
No. You know, I also I thought I said I was heading out, and then when I was closing the door, I heard you all talk about me behind my back, and I was really upset. No, but Jane, I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to just like pop out. I had to pee. I pooted.
Oh, language.
My Christian server? I don't think so.
Are those the only two things you watched, Brandon?
Yeah.
Damn.
I watched a lot of Chef's Table, honestly. Just a lot of Chef's Table.
Damn. All right, Adam, what'd you watch?
All right, so
By the way, sorry. Sam, were you done?
Oh, I was done. Yeah, I was done. Yeah, I was good. You're good.
Sorry, go ahead, Adam. Yeah, my bad.
Okay, so I watched. I think this was on the day we did the show last week, but I wanted to wait to give myself some time to kind of ruminate on it or whatever, and I'll also write about it. But I rewatched Days of Thunder. I was writing a retrospective for frontstretch.com about it. It's the movie that really brought NASCAR, I guess, mainstream, because there have been a few movies about it beforehand, but never anything like, you know, that was like a blockbuster that had the draw of someone like
there was
Tom
no Ricky
Cruise.
Bobby.
Sorry?
There was no Ricky Bobby.
No Ricky Bobby yet.
No,
but it holds up. I don't think it's as bad as it's not bad and it's not great, but it's a gorgeous movie and it's a lot of fun. It's really well shot, going back, which is not something I expected to see, but I mean, everyone's pretty good in it for their roles and everything, but looking at it from the perspective of a racing fan, it's really not bad. They get a lot of things right. They also get a lot of stuff wrong. That's like the two major things I noticed that were probably the funniest things is, so during the last race, when Cole Trickle is driving the mellow yellow car, he has to get through a big crash, and then it cuts to an angle of the crash, and one of the cars in the crash is the mellow yellow car. And so I guess they were like, hey, we need a shot of the crash, and they didn't have enough cars or something. And then the other one that's my favorite is where in the last race, again, he's catching up to the leader. They're side by side, and there's a car below them. And let me bring it up to make sure I get this right, because this is like a 4-part error on they're apart.
Adam's going through like frame by frame.
Gotta figure. Okay.
You're watching Citizen Kane. Sorry?
Nothing. No, I said Adam studied every frame of Days of Thunder with science. He knows exactly at what second Tom Cruise sneezes. He flares his nostrils. He has notes.
Hi, my name is Adam, and this is Every Frame of Painting.
Every
All
frame.
right.
You ever watch Days of Thunder?
So for reference, there was a number 26 Quaker State car. These are real cars that was driven by Ricky Rudd in 1989 and Brett Bodine in 1990. That doesn't matter. I'm going to use Bodine for ease of talking and not saying like 50 million things about this. And Harry Gant drove the 33 Skull car. All right. So Tom Cruise and the other dude are fighting for the lead, and it cuts to a shot of them and this other car beside one another. That car is the Quaker State car, right? And so then it cuts to like, some exterior shots, some inside the car shots, cuts back to the 3-car shot. The bottom car is now the 33 Skull car. And then it cuts back to that car, not Tom Cruise or the other guy wrecking, and it's the 26 car again. And then it cuts back to Tom Cruise, and he identifies the car as the other car. It's the wildest thing when you notice it. It's like it's one car, then it's another, and then it's back to the first car, and then it's back to the other car. It's the most bizarre thing I saw in the movie.
How fast is the editing?
Sorry?
How fast is the editing?
I mean, it's pretty fast, given, I guess, with the racing action and making the first like big movie with it. They were like, oh, we got to cut things fast because the cars are fast. But it's not bad, except when you notice they're not at the track they say they are, or that they're supposed to be at, or something like that. I mean, have any of you guys seen it?
Nope.
I saw like one time.
Okay, but I'm gonna assume all of you guys have seen Top Gun.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay, well, then that doesn't make a difference. But it's Tony Scott directed it, and Tom Cruise is in it, just like Top Gun. It's kind of the Top Gun story, just with racing. Tom Cruise. What I've learned with racing movies and stuff is that Tom Cruise got into racing because of Paul Newman, and that's why Tom Cruise wanted to make the movie. Because when they were filming The Color of Money in they would have been filming, I guess, 85, came out in 86. Paul Newman, who had gotten into racing about a decade before, would step away, like on breaks from filming, and go race some. And Tom Cruise got interested, and then that gave Tom Cruise the idea to go make a racing movie, which I think is cool. And I also I probably should have said this at the start. The reason I rewatched it and wrote this retrospective is because its 30th anniversary this past Saturday, so a few days ago. No one ran a throwback paint scheme, even though there was a race that day, which made me very sad. But there have been a few throughout like the last 7 or 8 years in racing. So, but yeah, Days of Thunder, pretty solid. Yes, Brandon, you have a question.
I have a very important question for you about a very important piece of like racing film history.
What is your important question?
You're going to address it in your column. I have a request, honestly. It's a request, really, that you cover it.
Okay.
Do you know this film celebrated its 15-year anniversary last week? 10 days ago, actually.
I think I know what it is.
What is it?
It's Cars, right?
No. 15th year anniversary, Adam.
Okay, so that'd be Cars would be 14 years. I don't know.
In 2005.
Talladega Nights?
No.
That was at 2006.
In 2005, the film Herbie Fully Loaded was released.
I still haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Herbie Fully Loaded?
No.
Were you not a Disney kid?
Not really, honestly, no.
Adam, it's on Disney Plus. I know you have an account.
Which I reactivated recently so we can watch Artemis Fowl, yeah.
Well, now you can watch Herbie Fully Loaded.
Hey,
And write about it, Adam. Okay, that's my request. This is your first.
movie. I don't know if it's a great movie.
There are a couple things I'm gonna be doing before that, but because
Priority, Adam.
sorry,
Top priority. Move this up the list.
my top priority right now is this coming week is the anniversary, kind of the middle anniversary of when Cars and Talladega Nights were released, kind of in the middle of those two dates. And I'm also doing a column on NASCAR movie paint schemes, so those come first.
I can't believe you call yourself a racing fan and haven't seen Fully Loaded.
I'm also trying to get interviews with some people to talk to them about racing movies and stuff. So
okay, ask them if they've seen Herbie Fully Loaded.
I'm saying though, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I love that movie, man. I grew up with that movie. That movie inspires me every day." Right?
Hi, Mr. Soderbergh. Where did you get the inspiration for Logan Lucky? Well, I watched Herbie Fully Loaded, and I just took off.
Excuse me, Mr. and our Mrs. Race Car Driver. What do you do to get yourself inspired before a race? I'm sitting there. I got my nerves going. It's a movie I keep with me at all times. I watch Herbie Fully Loaded.
Well, and then they drive a replica around the track before every race.
Totally forgot. Michael Keaton in the movie too.
Who?
Michael Keaton is in the movie.
What?
Jesus.
I forgot about that. Who is he in the movie?
Michael Keaton's in Herbie Fully Loaded?
Yeah.
Is he Herbie?
He paints himself red, white, and blue. And like Lindsay Lohan hops on his back and he's like and runs around the track.
Why is Matt Dillon in it too?
Matt Dillon's in it? Oh my god.
Matt Dillon, Jimmy Simpson, who's one of the McPoyles from Always Sunny,
Jimmy
Justin
Stewart.
Long.
I knew Justin Long was in it.
Yeah.
Also, Adam, literally, there's race car drivers in the movie, Adam.
Oh, I can tell. There's a whole page of Wikipedia stuff.
Tony Stewart, Bobby Labonte, Tony Labonte, Russ Wallace, Jimmy
Are you
Johnson.
just reading this off the screen?
Yes, all the race car drivers, all your favorite racists are in it, Adam.
Well, I mean, Dale Jarrett and Scott Riggs are in it. They drove paint schemes for the movie. I made a meme with Scott Riggs this morning. Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Not those I was gonna say stupid, but like they aren't stupid. It's just I don't understand them. Are those Nesquik memes that you're making? What is going on?
The one meme that I made, yeah.
You made two.
No, I retweeted one and then I made one.
Okay. I don't know what's happening, but like I thought you were having a stroke like on Twitter. I was like, oh, what?
No, I retweeted the guy and then made one.
Okay.
You
were talking about like a Nesquik love triangle?
Yeah, because someone mocked up a Valentine's Day card with Jeff Green, who used to drive that car. And then I had the idea to Photoshop Scott Riggs into it, who drove the car after Jeff Green, and make a meme of that, which I was kind of proud of. It's fine. My other meme on Sunday got more traction. So
Yeah, Adam, that one blew up, right, Adam?
yeah, it was where they have a segment called Crank It Up, where they they just cut to like raw audio of like the communications and the engines and all that stuff, and in the middle of that segment of like live racing action was a shot of the virtual track, like on a video game or something. And then they did it again later on, but I made a meme of it where it's a shot of that, and it's the astronaut thing where it's like, wait, it's all virtual, and it's like always has been. And it kind of blew up, so I was pretty proud of that.
Is Adam the meme master?
The meme
Like the thing on the master of crappy memes, yeah.
How do you feel about the that was funny though, Adam. Like, how do you feel about the
Thank
Ohio?
you. How do I feel what?
About the Ohio meme?
Oh, I enjoy it a lot. About my Ohio meme or just the meme itself?
One in general, because I sent it to the chat and no one responded.
Like when it first started becoming popular?
Voice chat. Yeah.
I didn't remember that, but I do kind of love it. Yeah. Okay, so getting off of the NASCAR discourse, the next day I watched Eric Andre's Netflix special, which I missed when it came out a couple of days before.
I watched it as well, so I'll talk about it with you, Adam, but you go first.
Yeah. Okay. So I was introduced to Eric Andre about a year ago, I think. Like we watched Popstar. I saw that in like 2016. I didn't really know who he was then. He doesn't have a big part, obviously, but I've become a huge fan of his stuff over like the past year. Just it's like very raw comedy. It's just kind of like he's just doing whatever. He has this very manic energy that's very, very compelling. And I don't know, like what's her name? The like I know like some people at least know what they expect when they go on the show, but her name's like Lauren something that went on the show at one point, and she clearly didn't know what she was getting into, and it's the
None of them do.
Sorry?
None of them do.
That's fair. I know Tyler the Creator requested to be on his show.
Yeah.
From what I know, no one else really knows what they're getting into. What's her name? Lauren Conrad. That's it. Where like she just walks off after he like throws up on his desk and everything. But yeah, I've become a big fan of his comedy over the past year, and I watched his Netflix special, which I really liked a lot. Again, I love the manic energy and how he just kind of does whatever he wants. It was different from a lot of comedy specials in the sense that like he brought props with him. And then like at the end he just calls someone's mom and puts her up on a screen to talk to everyone at the recording at the show. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I don't know what you thought, Landon.
Sorry, 1 second. I really, really, really loved it. Eric Andre has a very, I think before I could talk about like Eric Andre, I do need to preface that I love Eric Andre a lot, but I hate what he has created within culture. This kind of idea of being loud and causing damage is funny.
That's fair.
But there's a difference between what Eric Andre does and his quote unquote fans do. Eric Andre actually pays these people back that he's like doing these pranks towards, and businesses that he is doing these pranks towards. But yeah, moving on to the special and Eric Andre as a whole, I believe he brings the same kind of manic energy that his show has to a live performance, which is actually insane to me, because I never thought you would be able to get that same kind of comedy through a stand-up routine.
Yeah, maintaining that level.
Yeah, a lot of the comedy Eric Andre is known for really doesn't work without certain editing choices that they do, because a lot of the funniest jokes in Eric Andre show are just very sharp cuts, and that really like just hit the punchline, and then they just get out of it. And somehow he was able to do that through his performance on stage, where like he would deliver a punchline to a joke, and then just automatically he'd have another joke just like pulled up, ready to fire, with just as much energy as he's had since the beginning of the show, or since the beginning of the stand-up routine. It was actually incredible to see him in motion the way that he was in motion. I'm not saying that it's a perfect stand-up routine, because there are moments where it's like, I've seen the same material that he's doing right now on his show. You were just like recycling things that you did on your show, and you're now putting it into a live stand-up routine.
Yeah.
Like there's that whole joke about how his mom is Jewish and his dad is black. And he's like, "I'm bluish, baby." That's something that he says in his shows, in the Eric Andre show. So I was like, I've seen this before. And then like the whole like tell stories about his mom. He's talked about that on countless amount of interviews. So it's just like stuff like that. Really wasn't a big fan of, but everything else, perfect. I loved it.
Yeah, I did. It was interesting to see him in. Sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
I was going to ask, what's everyone's favorite Eric Andre sketch from the show?
I was actually going to talk about that in a second.
Okay.
I like I like when they're they're talking. It's him and Hannibal, and they're trying to steal kids, and it's like it's the one time where Eric Andre's like, no, they're trying to pick up kids, not steal kids. It's like, who can pick up the most kids? And then it's just Eric Andre like going to pick up this kid, and they start crying. And he's like, I can't do this. This is too much. I can't do it. It's one of the most like perfect moments of like the show. It's like the only time he's ever broken character.
I love the one where Hannibal is Morpheus.
I haven't seen that one. I've watched so many compilations, but I haven't seen that one.
It's Morpheus, Orpheus, 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 Morpheus.
Oh my god.
I don't know if I can't think of one off the top of my head because I've never watched the actual show. I've just watched like compilations of the interviews, but I need to like sit down and watch the show. Quite honestly, I need to. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen the show, but I've watched a bunch of compilations. The ones that come to mind, I think one of them's at like it's like an outdoor political. It's not like the Republican National Convention that he went to, but it's the outdoor political like rally or something that he goes to, and he's just going around asking people to like smell a sock. It's just the funniest.
Oh, is
thing.
that the RNC when he goes and he talks to what's his name, Alex Jones?
Yeah.
No, it's not the RNC. It's like the outdoor political thing that's
the
in
RNC.
Philly. Oh, they were part of the same thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's where we get the let me in. That's where we got the let me in thing from.
That's at the DNC.
That's the DNC.
Maybe it was the DNC then. I don't know.
No, Adam. He tries to go to both, right? He can't get into either one, so he can only go to the outside RNC, like what's happening inside.
Okay.
And they won't let Alex Jones in there either.
And he goes up to Alex Jones, hands him his hotel room card, and says, "Will you fuck my wife?" And then Alex Jones kicks him off stage, and one of the audience members gets in Eric Andre's face and says, "You aren't Martin Luther King."
You aren't Martin Luther King.
The other two that came to mind for me were two of his shorter ones that are like I've only watched I need to watch like the episodes of his show, but like the two that come to mind that I've watched recently or rewatched are where he goes into the Apple store and he puts his laptop down and he just starts pouring soda on and hitting with a hammer and he just goes, "Is it a tab button?" And it just kills me every time. And then there's the one where he goes into Harry's car shop on riding on someone's shoulders with a long trench coat.
Oh yeah.
He's like, "Do you have a friendly car or one that talks?" And the guy's like, "I don't trust people like this."
Oh my god.
But yeah, that was pretty good. I'll skip the next thing because we'll get to that in a little bit. And the next thing because we'll get to that after we get to the next thing, which is Sam's pick. On Saturday, I watched a short film, again, one that we'll talk about. And then I watched The Legend of Talladega, which is a Terry Gilliam directed short film from 2010 about NASCAR and Talladega Superspeedway, and has David Arquette in it for some reason. And there's not. Sorry?
Are there a lot of fisheye lenses?
A lot of what? You got cut off.
Are there a lot of fisheye lenses?
Now that I think about it, yeah, I think so. Because, okay, so it was an Amp Energy sponsored Dale Earnhardt Jr. at the time, and they had like a special scheme for this short film. And so they produced this short film where, I don't know, it's okay, quick backstory. Basically, Talladega Superspeedway is the sport's biggest track. It's purported that it was built on an Indian burial ground and everything, and that like it's famous for crashes, and people try to attribute it to the burial ground, but it's not that. It's just because it's a gigantic track where people run 4 and 5 wide. There was an incident in the 70s where Bobby Isaac just stopped in the middle of a race, came down pit road and got out because he heard voices telling him to do so. And I don't know. Who knows what's true? But this short film is kind of built on that, and David Arquette plays this crazy guy that's investigating it and stuff. Who plays the main? It's basically supposed to be like a segment of a show, like, that solves the unexplained and whatever. The lead role is Justin Kirk. He plays the host. I don't know who Justin Kirk is. He was in, according to Letterboxd, he was in Vice and nothing else I've heard of, except for what I'm talking about. To make a long story short, it's kind of weird and it never really goes anywhere.
Adam, you're doing the thing again.
Oh, I'm clicking. Sorry. I'm pretty sure I had seen it before, but there's weird things in it. Like there's clips of crashes that are obviously, to anyone who knows anything, they're at Daytona and not Talladega.
But couldn't that be part of the joke?
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
That's Harry Gill. He's a trickster. Also a terrible human being.
Yeah. There's it's like, that sensationalized thing where it's like, there's ghosts and everything. Daryl Waltrip and Dale Jr. have cameos, and then there's this weird thing during the final moments. Basically, the short film culminates in David Arquette and two of the camera crew are in a tent, in his David Arquette's tent that he set up to investigate. The hosts and stuff are on the front stretch. They're in the grandstands or whatever. So they find out that the cause of all the wrecks are banana peels, and and then it cuts to a clip of Elliot Sadler's. Let me see if I can share my screen because this is hard to describe. Hang on. Arguably one of the more spectacular crashes. There's an ad.
You aren't sharing your screen.
Oh, I know. I'm letting it go through the ad. Hopefully we won't get a copyright struck. All right, can you guys see this?
Disney Plus.
Oh, whoa, my favorite NASCAR.
All right, this is. I'll just show the first clip. This is the famous one. I think Taylor's had a lot of bad ones, but.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
Yep. Okay, so that's for reference. Basically, the film ends, even though it, I guess, takes place present day, it ends with that crash, but the car flips into the infield and flips onto their tent, so it ends with 3 people dying, basically. There's a weird, really bizarre point where it cuts to one of David Arquette's little camera feed monitors, and it's Ricky Rudd's crash at Daytona from 1984 with the 38 number of that car, the one I just showed, superimposed over it, which might be the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And yeah, that's just kind of how it ends. It's just well, they're dead.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how all those shows end, we may never know the cause of these things. And then it just ends. It's like a 15-minute thing, but there's so much to unpack with it. Okay, and then the last couple of things I watched. On Sunday, I watched the Netflix documentary Have a Good Trip, which is just kind of an hour 20 of celebrities talking about their experiences on LSD and acid and mushrooms and everything. It's fine. I don't know if any of you guys have watched it.
I've watched it.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's okay. I think it's just it just feels kind of weird to me because it's just celebrities complaining. There's a whole segment of celebrities complaining about how they've had bad trips and things like that. It's just oh, and then there's segments where they're I've been able to accomplish all of the things I accomplished because of LSD. And LSD does actually can open your mind and can help you reach certain goals. But it was just sometimes I just felt like celebrities were jerking each other off. And I was
yeah.
I don't like it.
There were parts I liked, where Rob Corddry is playing what's his name? Paul Scheer, and Paul Scheer's playing Rob Corddry in like the
Yeah, that
reenactment.
was funny. That was funny.
Yeah. I'm Paul Scheer and I'm in Amsterdam. The animated stuff was kind of neat, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, like I really couldn't tell you much about it 2 days after watching it. And then last night, actually no, I'm gonna wait to talk about that next week. I'm in the middle of the other one right now, and I kind of want to talk about both at once of the 2 Pete Davidson movies that have come out this year. So
Did you watch King of Staten Island?
I'm in the middle of it right now. I watched Big Time Adolescence last night.
Bought it?
Sorry?
Buy it?
No, I found it online somewhere. I didn't pirate it.
Can you send me the link?
Sure. Yeah.
You found it online somewhere?
Yeah.
Did you
They
pay
didn't
money for
pirate
it?
Anyway,
didn't pay money for
so
it,
that's everything I've watched this week. And Landon, I guess it's your go now.
Before I start, I do want to say, news just came out that Jordan Groggs, you probably don't know who this is or who this band is. Jordan Groggs from Injury Reserve passed away about an hour ago. And Injury Reserve is a hip hop collective that kind of revolutionized hip hop with their album Floss a couple years ago. And it's actually a tragedy because Jordan Groggs is an immense talent. He was only 30 years old. And Injury Reserve just started to become really, really big. And it's actually pretty heartbreaking. I'm really upset about it because Injury Reserve means a lot to me. Like I started listening to Floss my freshman year in college. And yeah, it really, really sucks. But yeah, everybody, there is a GoFundMe right now for Jordan Groggs' family, because he had 3 children that he will be leaving behind. And so yeah, if you guys can support that, definitely go check that out. And
Sorry to hear that. Jeez.
yeah. So what I watched, I don't know how to
There's no good transition.
I didn't really watch much because I've been moving to a new location. I watched the Eric Andre thing, which we talked about. And then I also started watching the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. And I gotta say, it's not that bad. But there's a weird thing where because my new roommate Christian, we were talking about it, and he was telling me how in the 90s cartoon of Spider-Man, he wasn't allowed to punch anybody. Like when they started making the show, the people were like, hey, let's not have him punch anybody. So they get around it by having him just pick up large objects and just throw them at people. So every time he's fighting somebody, he just picks up the biggest thing he can find in the room and just chucks it at somebody. And it's so funny because it's every single episode, that's how he solves every problem. It's just by picking up a large object and chucking it at somebody.
Imagine if you're playing like fucking Spider-Man on PS4 and you can't punch anybody and all you can do is throw things at people. Imagine. You're like at the final battle. I don't want to spoil it, but you're at the final battle. And it's like so cinematic, but instead of like throwing punches, you have to like find random objects around the street to throw.
Oh my god. Also, they reuse so many animations.
Of course.
Yeah, anytime Peter Parker goes to a different location, there's always this one clip that they reuse in every episode where he's walking out of the woods and he's putting a shirt on over his Spider-Man costume. Same thing every episode. Every episode, I'm just like, this is crazy.
There he goes.
But it's a legitimately good serialized comic book cartoon show. It's nothing great. It's just like it gives me like a nostalgia of just like waking up early to put on like uh Toon Disney that became like Disney XD, and they would like show like the 90s Spider-Man. So yeah, I watched that. And then today I watched Nice Guys, and because I wanted to revisit it. And man, oh man, is that just, it's just such a tight script, and just everything just works so well. Works so well. And then 2 years later, Shane Black decides to make one of the worst movies of his career with The Predator. And it just blows my mind how he went from The Nice Guys to The Predator. Because The Nice Guys is just like, it's a masterclass in just like comedic pacing. And just like also it's a masterclass in like returning jokes and just like the callback in general. I just love how Ryan Gosling's character is obsessed with Adolf Hitler, and like not in like a neo-Nazi way, but just like spewing off facts about Adolf Hitler. It's just like, this is so good. It's so good. And then like everything with the killer bees, there's like this whole underlying like plot going on with killer bees. It's so good. I
Well, it's
love it.
connected to Popstar.
Yeah.
Have you?
It's been a while. I was just gonna say it's been about 4 years since I saw that in theaters. It's like the last day it was in theaters. I was the only one in there. It was great. But it's been a while since I rewatched it. I might have to now. Now I'm motivated.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. It's a perfect.
Sam, you're muted. But yeah, I still haven't
Sorry.
rewatched it. I need to.
What are you saying?
Well, I was going to ask you, Landon, if you've seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and how you feel that compares to The Nice Guys.
I believe The Nice Guys is much more tighter of a script than Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I also like Ryan Gosling and what's his name?
Russell Crowe.
Crowe's chemistry a lot more than Val Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr.
I can agree with that.
I feel like the dynamic between them works a lot better. And like I feel like because Robert Downey Jr. I feel like outshines Val Kilmer a lot more in the film, even though Val Kilmer has a lot more moments in the film.
Mhm.
Like Robert Downey Jr.'s character is a lot more consistent. But in The Nice Guys, there's like not.
I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Someone's trying to call me.
I know you're good. Like I feel like in The Nice Guys, there's a lot more moments when they both just bounce off each other. There's not one that's better than the other in one scene. And like even if one of them is gone, you're always like they're always on, and like they're always saying something really witty or snappy, and like I feel like it's genuinely a perfect script.
It is. Like it's crazy to me how they're able to just. It's also like a pretty complex like plot. There's like a lot going on, but you're able to like, keep up with it for a majority of it.
And also the comedy in the film. It's not lowest common denominator either. It's a lot of jokes that you have to pay attention to and that are reliant on physical comedy. Like the scene it's like legitimately one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in my entire life. When Ryan Gosling's trying to break into the bar and he punches through the glass.
There's like it's like 20 seconds where he just stands and looks at his arm.
Oh no. He's in the ambulance, he's trying to take his mask off. He's like,
I don't know what you guys are talking about. Russell Crowe is going to be at his peak in Unhinged, coming out July 10th, which you're talking about Saint Maud. Unhinged is going to be the best or the highest grossing movie of all time.
Shut up, Adam.
They sponsored a NASCAR race. I have to talk about them.
Okay. But also
the music in the movie too is amazing.
They brought the Earth, Wind, and Fire like band that they bring into the movie. Like there's the scene where they go to like the porn.
Yeah, like that's the finale, right?
No.
Or is that no? That's in the middle. That's in the middle.
That's like 25% in.
Oh, it has been a while. Never mind.
Yeah. But also that entire scene is just like perfection as well. Just there will never be a scene that tops Ryan Gosling finding the dead body. And then like not like non-verbally like trying to communicate with I keep forgetting his name, Russell Crowe, trying to non-verbally communicate with Russell Crowe up on the roof, just being like and then them carrying the body, throwing it over the fence and landing it directly into like a birthday party. It's just so good. It's
You
so
should recommend it, Landon.
I might.
I know you're gonna do Man of Steel, but
I might not do Man of Steel. I have a lot of things I want to recommend, but I don't know. I think The Nice Guys is like it's honestly just a remake of The Big Lebowski, but that's a conversation for another day because it's so oddly similar in so many facets that it kind of blows my mind that nobody's like ever like people have made the comparison, but like
You should make a documentary about that.
it's no.
the Nice
I do want to
Lebowski.
make a video on it though. It's just so it's so weird, but like it is definitely like a modern day Big Lebowski though. Do you know what I mean?
Also, like Ryan Gosling, he's so good. Like when Russell Crowe breaks his arm, the sound he makes.
JPEG Mafia sampled that in one of his
I
songs.
don't know if you guys talked about this while I was away, but there's also the opening scene where he tries to break through the window.
Yeah.
Just the editing in that scene is perfect because it's like he breaks, you like clearly something's wrong. He looks, and then like immediately he's in the ambulance.
he like stumbles down the stairs as well.
Yes, yeah.
God, I need to rewatch it.
And then he's about to punch the window, and like the cloth like is up. It's like
One of my other favorite scenes, I forget who's trying to throw the gun, but one of them tries to throw the gun and it goes to the window.
it's Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
It's also so crazy how they introduce like all of these like hitmen and they're all so memorable. Like John Boy, like the final like hitman that shows up near the end of the movie. He's so like threatening, but he's so cool. And then like the other two, I forget who plays them. It's the voice actor. What's his name? He's known for doing like voice acting.
Isn't Keith David one of them?
Keith David, yeah.
Oh, Keith David, my boy.
Yeah. Love Keith David.
Pat and Coraline.
Yeah, they're just
He did the baseball documentary.
yeah. But yeah, he's great in it. Also, the scene at the end where Ryan Gosling falls into the pool and then he gets out of the pool and he just screams, "I'm invincible, I'll never die." And then that's immediately followed by him chasing the film reel and falling through glass, getting hit by like 4 cars, and him somehow managing to still get the film reel is one of the most. I don't know. He's like a cartoon character, but it works so well.
For a while, I put Ryan Gosling in more comedies.
They really do. He's like a comedic tour de force. He's so good in that movie.
So good.
Also, Russell Crowe, he's great in that movie as well. He's not as good as Ryan Gosling, but he still carries his own weight.
Like and Ryan Gosling just like throughout the film, I don't know, because he has so many different personas. Like even like in drama, and like when he's in a drama, he's like very serious. You buy him as like the really intimidating guy who's like has a lot of demons and everything. But like immediately he can go to something like Nice Guys and he's this goofy ass like motherfucker with like these glasses on there too big for his face and throwing guns and like punching, like cutting his wrists. So, like I don't know, he's a genius. Like he's so good. He's such a fucking genius.
I was watching it with Christian, and he was because I was like, "Hey, Christian, I think you would really like this movie." And he was like, "I don't really like Ryan Gosling that much," and I was like, "Just you wait." And he came out of that, he was like, "This is like one of the best movies I've ever seen."
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Oh my god.
So
It's so good. God. Perfect movie. Where did that go on our top 200 list? Was that even on our list?
That was on it. It's on it. I don't know
Okay.
where, but it's on the list.
I think it's in the 70s.
Okay,
Yeah,
good,
that
good,
sounds
good,
right.
good.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Also, I think Portrait of a Lady on Fire is like in the 70s. We need to change
No,
that.
Portrait of a Lady on Fire is like 14.
Yeah, it's in the
Okay,
top.
I got scared. I was like, oof.
Yeah, that's all I watched.
Speaking of nice guys, Mr. Samuel Goodrich recommended
Yes,
the film to us.
I
And
did.
why don't you tell us about this film, Sam?
Yeah, so I recommended a film that is, I believe, is one of the formative films of my life. Um, there are two films in my life that I think really shaped me and my enjoyment of film. And they both came out, or at least I saw them both in the same year. One of them is Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which was the first movie I saw twice in theaters and really helped me to sort of, I don't know, get a feel. Like, it was the first time I said a movie was my favorite movie, and I like really meant it, like held on to that. And then this other film that I recommended was a movie on Netflix that I watched many, 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 many times. And there was a point in my life where I had two movies on my iPod Touch. I had Scott Pilgrim and I had this film, Mary and Max. And whenever I was going, like, riding to school in the morning and I was bored, I would just watch clips from these movies. And so they're sort of ingrained in my DNA in a weird way. They're like very much a part of me. And so I recommended the film Mary and Max, which is an Australian film from 2009, technically, but I think it came out in America in 2010, directed by Adam Elliott, starring Philip Seymour Hoffman and Toni Collette. It's a stop motion animated film in the vein of like a Wallace and Gromit sort of claymation sort of thing. And it is the story of a young girl in Australia in the 70s named Mary, who lives a very sheltered, troubled life. Her parents are very distant from her. They don't really pay that much attention to her. But she's a very inquisitive person. She's just like a child. She's very much curious about things and asking questions. And so she decides that, you know, she wants to find out where babies come from in America, because in Australia they come from beer glasses. So where do they come from in America? Well, she finds an address book at the post office with a random name, Mr. M. Horowitz, and decides to write him a letter. This M. Horowitz is Max, who lives in New York City, who is a 40-year-old man with Asperger's, who lives a very sheltered life, who lives a very structured existence, with this letter from Mary sort of disrupts his life, but leads to a lifelong friendship between the two of them, that goes through many trials and tribulations and follows them as they develop and change as people and sort of influence each other for the better in most cases. It's a movie. I would just like to preface, first of all, whenever I explain this plot to people, I always have to say it does not turn into a romantic thing. Everyone always thinks it does. It is not. It's a purely platonic friendship, which is the most beautiful thing about the film to me, is the friendship between Mary and Max, where you have these two people who seemingly couldn't be more different, who are on complete opposite sides of the world, who have a huge gap in years of experience, but they do, you know, they become such good friends because they sort of, in a way, challenge each other. They sort of challenge each other to be better. Where Mary is a child just learning things about the world, and Max's Asperger's syndrome sort of puts him in a state of introvertedness, of social distancing, of social anxiety. And Mary forces him to really confront those things and really deal with them. And it's just, I don't know if you all would agree with me, having only seen the film once, but I think it's a very heartwarming and charming film, um, that brushes with darkness, that brushes with very um, uh, messed up things, that messes with a lot of crazy things, but it ultimately is a heartwarming story about the power of friendship and connections and just, you know, how similar people are at the end of the day. But that's sort of, but if anyone wants to bounce off of that or give their thoughts as well, please go for it.
Yeah. I found myself thinking about it a lot after and in like the hours preceding, because I stayed up a little bit like for a while. I didn't go to sleep pretty late after I watched the film, and I found myself thinking a lot about it and getting kind of emotional because like I don't know, we're all like in very transitionary stages in our life, and where we're all kind of focusing on things that are very superficial or like don't really mean that much in the long run, like jobs or money or stuff like that. And I don't know, just thinking about it in the sense that that's not the stuff that's going to last you or sustain you throughout your entire life. It's not the money or like the like physical things or whatever like that. It's the connections and the love and the friendships you make with people that are going to make you, that are ultimately going to get you through like really hard stuff in your life. That's really going to make you think and really going to make you challenge yourself. And I don't know, just thinking about the relationship they had in the film and how Mary goes to some really dark places in the film, especially towards the end of the film. Some really, really fucked up and really dark places. Some really fucked up shit happens to her. And like, I don't know, just seeing how that relationship with Max is able to kind of, it's well, towards the end of the film, it kind of, like stuff happens and she kind of like, that kind of leads her down there. But like that kind of slight glimpse of hope she sees towards the end of it with one of her neighbors who, I forgot the condition he has with the, like, I don't know, but like kind of pulls her, like absolutely just rips her out of this like pit of darkness where she's about to kind of do something really drastic and kind of turns her whole life around. And I think that's really, it's just so beautiful. And like the thing you talk about with the connections and how those are the things that really like I don't know, it just really kind of hit me thinking about it afterwards, after the fact. But yeah, I just want to thank you, Sam, for recommending it because I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it deals with, and if, I don't know, Brandon, Landon, if you guys watched it, but Sam, if you want to talk about it a little bit after we finish talking about this before I recommend mine, I watched Harvey Crumpet on Saturday, and we'll get there. But I did enjoy how the movie deals with a lot that you might not expect it to, and gets to kind of those dark places, but also kind of pulls it back into the light a little bit as it gets towards the end, like when of course Mary finds Max right at the end. You know, you're like, fuck, oh no, but that he's dead. But at the same time, like she kind of rejoices in seeing how their relationship, their connection evolved over all those years, all the letters and everything like that.
Yeah, I echo what both of you guys said. Does somebody have the volume? Because I can hear myself when I
Yeah,
talk.
there's an echo. Let me turn it down a little bit, see if that helps.
Hello? Okay, I don't hear myself anymore. But yeah, I think the movie is so like Brandon. I've been thinking about the movie a lot, just in general. Just like if there's ever like a moment in my day where I can just like stop and think, it somehow has like drilled itself so deep into my mind where it's just like there's just certain moments from the film and like certain imagery that I'll just see and I'll kind of like tear up a little just because of how pure it is, and that purity kind of has like shined through all of these corrupt times that are occurring right now. And like Brandon said, the whole everything that's going on, it's good to focus on these like connections and friendships. And it's so weird because I have never had a pen pal. I've never had anybody like this, but I somehow can connect to this because through things like this is going to sound so stupid, but like through things like online gaming or things like that, I have formed these kind of deep rooted friendships with people that I have never met in person, and they know everything about my life. They know everything about it. I'm able to vent to them. I'm able to talk to them. They've never met me. I've never met them, but it's still this very deep friendship that runs very deep. Like, I think I talked to you guys like a month ago, and I was telling you about my friend Rodney, who I used to play PlayStation with all the time. And like, I ended up messaging him on Facebook, got his phone number, and we've been talking ever since. And we picked up right basically like where we left off. And it's so crazy how those like pure friendships from childhood can grow and can adapt to what is happening today. And I think that's really what Mary and Max truly captures. And like, I think a lot of people from our generation can truly connect to that because of things like social media and things like online gaming, because these are these communities and there are these people that you meet that you will never fully understand what they're going through, but you have that personal connection. And I think it's also just, movie is also just so well done as well, because that whole entire theme is kind of encapsulated with this kind of, it's this very like jovial score that goes throughout, even like during these like super dark times. It's this very upbeat, bouncy, jovial feeling that the score like drills into your heart and into your soul. And like
me too.
Hmm?
The score for Inside Out.
Yeah, I guess.
No, I mean, like, this is better than Inside Out. Like, I just think the score is kind of similar, honestly. It's like,
Yeah, I can see that. But yeah, the score reminds me a lot. I think I talked about this after we watched the movie. It reminds me a lot of Amelie. And it's not just the score, but it's also just the use of narration and the kind of humor that they have are very similar. Like that offbeat kind of like the way that uh, they talk about like the death of her dad. It's kind of funny. It's very funny, but like it's
Yes,
also
100%.
very dark. And the same thing happens in Amelie with like the death of her mother, where they're just like walking out of the bank and like something falls on her. And it's just like it's just so nonchalant, and it kind of keeps this childhood joy about it, but it's very dark. And I think that's where the movie like truly succeeds, is it doesn't stay in these dark areas. It always has that overlying quirky energy of joy and purity that shines through the entirety of the movie. But yeah, I think it's perfect. I don't know.
And well, first of all, I'm really happy to hear that you guys really enjoyed it. That means a lot to me. I'm really happy you all found a lot of meaning in it, and it's still a movie that can resonate so many years afterwards. And even though I've seen it so many times, it still really impacts me, and I still feel a lot of these things. And well, one thing I'm curious about is, how do you all feel about the narration? Because I think the narration, personally for me, is like what Landon just said. It's like the key to maintaining that quirky, light tone. Like
Yeah.
like the narration always feels like a father reading a story to their child. Like I feel like this is what like if someone's dad was reading their kid like a really dark book, I don't know what you could think of, but just like all right, son, we're gonna read Catcher in the Rye real quick, and he like tells him a bedtime story, but it's like a really messed up book. Or like, all right, we're gonna read A Streetcar Named Desire real quick, like,
We're
something
gonna read Heart of Darkness.
right. It's like, all right, guys, we're gonna read The Things They Carried real quick. It's like your 5-year-old kid. I don't know. But I think the narration is
You're gonna
so
read Into
good,
Thin Air.
and the way that like it changes. The rhetoric changes slightly depending on who the narrator is talking about. Bless you.
stop.
Oh, my bad. Never mind. Where we're like with Max, it's like larger words and using the words that he's created, and with Mary, it's definitely more of like a smaller worldview and a smaller perspective. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you all think about it, or how you feel about the narration.
Yeah, I actually love the narration, and especially I love the way that the narrator presents Max's world, because it is very enclosed. Like you can feel the claustrophobia within the like framing and the animation style that they use for Max, but the way that the narrator describes Max's world and like his living arrangement, it feels so grand because that's how it is to Max. And I love that. There's such a deep respect for like mental disorders and just like any kind of like anything that has to deal with like PTSD, depression, anxiety, anything like that. They treat it with such care and never like, they still leave that like comedy kind of edge to it, but it never feels malicious. It feels so purposeful. Like I said, like these moments that can be kind of overwhelming in retrospect can be incredibly kind of funny. Like, and I think that's what it captures, especially with like near the end with like Mary's battle with depression and like throughout the entirety of the film with Max and like his struggles with like Asperger's. It's just they like keep that comedy edge to it, but they never like are offensive, and it's still very pure.
Yeah, I agree. I also enjoyed the. Go ahead, Brandon.
You go, Adam.
No, I was just gonna say that there's some genuinely funny moments in there that kind of keep the levity, I guess, as it goes on. Like the one behind me is probably the one that I laughed the loudest at. It's just where Mary gets her. Okay, so the mom is trying to throw away the garbage that's in. I know Sam. I know loves this scene, but the mom.
I'm holding back. I'm holding back from it's like one of the few scenes with dialogue.
Sam, go ahead, and I'll finish it off with the part that I found the funniest. You go. You start.
I'm good.
So her mom found the letter from Max and threw it away. The garbage truck comes. Do you want to?
Go talk. You're good. Go.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it. But I'm doing it in my head. I'm doing it in my head.
All right. I thought you were going to. So the garbage truck comes. The mom tries to throw away one more bag, and the letter falls out when the mom falls. Right?
Yeah, because Ethel poops. Ethel the chicken poops, and so she slips on it, and then the trash bag breaks, and then she grabs all the trash, throws it in, and she's like, "Mary, is that all the rubbish?" She's like, "Yeah."
Mary obviously says yes, but as the letter that fell out, and then she's excited and she runs down the sidewalk here, and then just face plants. It like holds as she's going, and then the last second she face plants and it immediately cuts. It's so hilarious. I love it. It's probably the scene I laughed the loudest at.
I always laugh when when Mary would like try to describe her neighbor's like fear of going outside.
Yes.
It'd be like, he never went outside because of homophobia.
Homophobia.
As older, she starts using the correct term for it, which I found really interesting. And I was just like, like I don't think it's her. It's like the narrator. As Mary gets older, he starts using the correct term for it.
Oh, really? Because I think it's Mary because she's always like writing in the letters like,
oh yeah.
Man, he's got homophobia. Then she's an adult and she's like, oh, he has is it agoraphobia? Is that what
agoraphobia? Yeah.
Oh, poor whatever. He's still dealing with his agoraphobia. And you're like, oh, interesting. I don't know. I just love. I mean, before I go on a different tangent, Brandon, do you have anything else you wanted to add or anything else you wanted to say?
Oh no, we were just talking about homophobia, and I just wanted to talk about the narration there, but we kind of moved past that. But
no, go for it, please continue.
I kind of just want to talk about how like I don't know, like narration and like especially like in children's films, it's used to kind of like chronicle the stories for children who can't really tell their own stories. And like I found it interesting how like the narration kind of evolves with her as she grows older, but like as the film ends, I feel like it kind of symbolizes her like finally moving past childhood, letting go of Max, and kind of moving into a new stage of her life where she can tell her own story. Kind of because like there's not, like you said, there's not a lot of dialogue in the film, so like I kind of took it as her moving to a stage of her life where she could kind of verbalize in a way she couldn't because she was tied to all this stuff where she couldn't like.
Yeah, she
I
has her own voice, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And well, I think you're totally right about that, Brandon. That's something I never noticed until honestly just now when you said it, is that the narration stops once her neighbor brings her the letter, right? Then it's Max reading the letter, cut to a year later when she goes to see Max. No more. Well, there is some narration, I think, just like describing him and like his death, but still like it's minor now. It's a little less. It's just yeah. I feel that though. I think you're right about that, and I think also just like I don't know. I just love the style of this movie. I love Adam Elliott's character designs and how exaggerated and weird they are. How kind of gross they are. Like they're kind of gross.
When she's talking about her grandpa and it shows like the
nipples.
the nipples, it was just like this is kind of gross, but like
what? But like I love it because like everything seems like handmade and crafted, and this goes into like the details in the background. Like I always love looking at the books that people are reading because like every book has a different title, and my favorite one is like Mary is researching different like mental disorders, and it shows the different books she's reading. The last one she reads is called "I'm Okay." No, you're a homicidal maniac.
Yeah.
But then, like earlier, Max was reading a book called "I'm Okay, You're Okay," and so it's like, is there a connection? I don't know. But like, I just think there's so much detail and love poured into this film. And one detail that I always miss because I've just seen the movie so many times is how in New York, in Max's world, everything is black and white. It's all the same. It's all redundant, right? It's like that. It's all monochromatic. And then in Mary's world, because she has a child, she's just learning new things. Everything's very exciting. It's all in color. Admittedly, it's very like washed out brown color.
All in tan.
Yeah, it's very washed out and brown, but it's still colorful, and it contrasts very well with Max. And I think one of my favorite sequences in the movie, it's near the end, where he's describing how his therapist Bernard Hasselhoff like describes people's lives, and he's like basically everybody has their own path and their own cracks and trash and things, and it's like they're both walking on their own paths until their paths meet and like directly divides it, so one half is like in color, one is in black and white, and they share a can of condensed milk, and it's great.
that scene is where I like really started tearing up watching it. It's just it's so good. It's like the letters are like poetry. I don't know how to describe it. They're very much like the peach in the icebox poem. That's how the letters read to me. They're so bare bones, but they're so I don't know. There's just so much personality there.
You
Like
say so much about them.
yeah, it's so good. Like the mundane activities that they describe are just so enthralling to me. I love it. I love it so much. Damn.
There you go, Brandon.
What was that, Adam?
I just asked Brandon where he went. He's like disappeared.
Luna is my kitten is being chaotic right now, so she's trying to control.
Hey, that's fair.
She just loves to play at like almost midnight. It's how she beats.
Yeah, cats are
Maybe you
nocturnal.
shouldn't have named her Luna.
Hey, cats are nocturnal. That's the way my cat always is around this time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else I want to add, or I mean, is there anything else anybody else wants to discuss about the film? I don't know if you have any other insights, or interesting things.
Sam, do you want to discuss it?
Move on to Harvey Crumpet and talk about that, because Harvey Crumpet is a short film that Adam Elliott made in 2004. I want to say 2003. Thank you, Adam. And he won the Oscar for it, right? That's correct. He won the Oscar for Best Animated Short Film for that, and it is very similar to Mary and Max, where it's following the life of one person who is who's Jewish or Polish.
I think Polish.
Polish, And he's born like during World War II, or like before World War II, and then he like relocates to America and just sort of like lives his life. And it's just kind of like, it's a really fascinating story. I feel like that's told in like 15, 20 minutes about like
Yeah.
uh, living life to the fullest in whatever way you see fit, and sort of like celebrating people's individuality and like their ability to like not conform. Harvey Krumpet also has my favorite joke in anything ever. One of my favorite jokes ever, which is everybody, because it's the 40s and the 50s, everyone smokes, and Harvey Krumpet develops asthma, and so he goes to meet with like a doctor, and the doctor is also smoking, and she's like, "Oh, well, I mean, it also has a narrator, and so the narrator's describing what's happening, and he's like, oh, you know, um, cigarette smoke is like a sauna for your throat. So you should smoke more cigarettes." So he starts smoking like 3 packs a day or something crazy. Then he joins like a nudist colony, and he like helps a group that like liberates chickens. Like it's a whole thing. It's so good though.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. You could definitely see where the inspiration came from for, or like there's a lot of things that are carried over into Mary and Max. You know, the main character, or at least one of the main characters, having a challenge of some sort.
And I believe Harvey Krumpet also has Asperger's, correct?
Did he? I think
I'm 90% sure.
Tourette's.
There you go. That's what he has to. There you go.
But yeah, he just has constant bad luck aside from that. And also there's another parallel with Max and Mary and Max, where Max has his book of faces to refer to expressions. Harvey has a book of facts that he learns throughout his life. And there's a lot of parallels like that are carried over, but in a good way, not like a repetitive way.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Sam, I also like. Were you going to see talking about the short film, Adam?
No, I was just gonna say the other thing I just thought of is just like the sudden deaths. People just, we were talking about this after we watched it. Just people just die, and you move on. But yeah, Brandon, that's the only other thing I had.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to talk. Mention to Sam. I love how this is a period film.
Yes.
Like it was a period film. Like I just love how even
Twin
though
Towers.
it's a
The Twin Towers. How you see the Twin Towers every time
yes.
they go to New York. Yeah.
Also, yeah, with the Twin Towers and also the way that the universes are set up and like where they dress and everything, they're all very like period specific, and they put a lot of attention in the detail of how to get all like for like the 70s and 80s and 90s correct, with like the glasses and like the suburbs and everything. There's so much attention to detail and so much like care put into how everything's designed. I just find it so intriguing. It's like it's brilliant, honestly.
I'm not gonna front. There was a moment in the movie where I was like, "Is Max gonna write a note about the Twin Towers falling?"
Yeah.
There was like a genuine moment in the movie where I was like, "Why do they keep showing them?"
Because
is that gonna happen?
He's like near the end, "Mary, don't come to New York." The letter was written September 12th, 2001. The movie becomes Remember Me with Robert Pattinson.
Oh my god.
Max is finally gonna turn his round to life. He's gonna turn a life around, guys. He's gonna go in the Twin Towers.
Oh my god. I was just like,
You got a job.
what's happening?
Oh my god. Oh no, I just adore this movie with all of my heart, and I think it's a movie that's grown up with me. Is a weird way I feel like about it. Whereas like I've grown more mature and more empathetic and more aware of like mental health problems and social issues and things like that. This film has always like been around with it, and it was always about these topics and issues, but I never fully realized at the time. Because when I watched the movie, I was 13. That's something to really bring up. I watched the movie when I was 13. And it's a movie I've probably watched every year since then. It's a movie that's been a very big part of my life. And I think that's why I also call it a formative film, because it is a very like empathetic movie, and a movie that's all about like care and love and finding the positives in life, no matter how dark things get. To the point where I kind of forgot how dark it was. And then watching it this time, I was like, oh wow, yeah, like, you know, like the scene where Mary's mom died is really like kind of creepy and unsettling, and like really sad. And like at the time when I was 13, I was like, oh, that's a weird feeling, whatever. And now I'm like an adult, and I'm like, uh-oh, existential dread, here it comes. Like, you know, it's just interesting to see how the film has sort of grown up with me, even though it's been there the whole time. You know, it's been this good forever, and I've just never fully comprehended it until recently.
I feel like this is a movie that should be watched once a year. I don't know when, but I feel like it is. It gives me such a warm feeling. I don't know how to describe it. Like, it gives me the feeling a Christmas movie gives me, but it's not a Christmas. Do you know what I mean?
Because you just get this like familial feeling, right? You get to
Yeah.
really know these people and connect with them and like know their lives. Like I love learning about Max's pets, right?
Yeah.
Like, none of them ever show up again, except Henry. All the different Henrys. Well, like you get to
Favorite
know
Henry
them.
death. Go.
The toaster.
Leaning out the window.
The
What is
toaster
happening?
is the best one because he's trying to go for a fly. And he jumps to get the fly, hits the wall, and then lands on the toaster.
Isn't there one where his neighbor accidentally like kills the fish or
Yes,
something?
because she puts the blender.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I like that one a lot. Also, the neighbor was a great character. I loved her so much.
Dude, the neighbor's so good. And I love one of my favorite moments is when she gets the rest of Max's lottery money, and the look she gives, like she just look because she's like blind, right? So her eyes are shut, and then she looks at it and she goes, oh, like her eyes like bug out. Oh. And they have this like horn noise that plays with it. It's like, burp.
Yeah. Oh my god. And then it goes through like all the things she bought and like how when she died she gave all the money to the cat sanctuary. And then the guy just bought a trip and bought his wife new breasts or something like that.
So good. Also, the scene where the mime dies, with the air conditioner falling out of the building. And what about
he sees it, he just puts the umbrella. It's so good. It's so good.
one of my favorite lines from the narrator is when he goes, he's like talking about the court case where he had manslaughter charges, and they were like, the court found that he didn't really have a reason to kill the mime, unlike most people.
I also love when Max is like catching up with Adam. What is going on with your microphone?
Doing anything.
You sound like a robot.
Adam, it sounds like Cyberpunk 2077.
Does it sound that bad?
Yeah,
Oh no!
it sounds terrible, Adam. I'm sorry, but I don't think you should talk.
Turn you down. Turn you down. That helps. All right, is that better?
No, it sounds worse.
Okay, how about this? Can you understand what I'm saying though?
You remind me of like the commercials where it's like the non-smoking ads.
Hi,
Let's
for 10 years.
okay. Let's end the meeting real quick. I have the recording. I'll let it save, and we splice the two and finish.
I think we're done, Adam.
Yeah.
Not completely done.
Well, no, so we're nearing the end of the current discussion, and then you're gonna recommend your movie, and then we're done, right?
Just recommend your movie with Robot Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because we'll still understand. We can still hear you. It's just not gonna be as big of an issue for the rest of the show, unless you want to go on a whole hour-long tangent about Mary and Max. But I doubt that.
Yeah. Actually, I was planning on it now. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right, Adam, what's your movie you're recommending?
Sam, were you done?
Robot.
I was just gonna ask, what everybody give their letterbox rating for Mary Max?
5.
I think.
6. Ooh.
5 and a like, bro.
Ooh. Adam, you said a 4.
Yeah.
All right, I would give it a 5, and I gave it a 5, and it's also in my favorites, my like select 4. So it's kind of the best movie ever made. You know, it's kind of the greatest thing ever made. I don't want to brag, but yeah. So with that, Adam, very excited to hear what our Decepticon friend is going to recommend.
It's not that bad.
Yes.
It's still bad. It's still
When you listen back.
All right. So this was almost a perfect segue when Landon, when you said that it's a movie that Mary Max should be watched once a year. This is a movie that I watch about once a year, but it might be more given that I'm recommending it. Your laughter is very distracting.
My laughter is distracting.
This will be cleared up. Maybe this will be cleared up in the recording. Who knows? Okay, so this is a movie. I've dropped some hints over the last couple of weeks. It's something Brandon and I have seen, something that he thought was okay that I love. You guys have not seen it. It is something that I watched. I plan to watch again this year, but I guess I'll see it earlier than I expected. It is the 2018 movie released in September. Brandon, are you okay?
I understand. Just keep going.
What?
Just keep going.
Can you understand?
Adam, just spit it out, please.
It's a movie that I love for reasons I'm not sure of. It's just a lot of fun. It is a 2018 movie directed by Paul Feig, A Simple Favor.
I swear to God. Fucking asshole. Fucking asshole. Fuck you.
Don't have to watch it, Brandon.
Adam, I'm gonna be honest with you right now. When you were sitting there, you're like, it's a movie I watch every year. I was like, oh man, what could it be? And then you said a 2018 film, and I was like, if it's A Simple Favor. I literally thought if it's A Simple Favor. I'm still excited to watch. I've never seen it. I'm still up for it. It's like, damn. You're watching it every year for 1 year.
Yeah, that's fair. That wasn't a good description, but it's a lot of fun. I can promise you that. There's some really good performances in it. I'm serious. It's a lot of fun. Brandon, you don't like it because you don't like the fun.
Brandon, if you don't like this movie, you don't like fun.
Brandon, if you don't like this, you're a fucking bastard. Look,
this is kind of a random series. Brandon chose something because he didn't figure out a movie. Sam chose a movie that he loves. I chose a movie that I really love. So
I choose a movie that I climax to at least 10 times during. Adam, okay, I need you to be honest with me, okay? Be honest with me. If this movie starred, I don't know, Val Kilmer and Russell Crowe in the 2 lead roles, would you like it as much? The same dialogue, everything. Would you like it as much?
I think it would work with the same dialogue.
Would you like it as much?
Yes. Yeah, probably. Because the 2 leads in this movie are what make it work, but it would work with any like pairing leads that are just as good. Like it's a really good script.
Brandon. Whoa. Hey, Adam, I'm here for it. I'm excited to watch it.
Thank you, Sam.
So I meant to see it.
I didn't criticize when any of you guys picked movies that you like, so.
You can criticize them if you want. I'm not stopping you. If you don't like something, Mary Max.
I know. I'm just saying I didn't. So,
Exactly.
So I deserve the same respect.
I'll go on record right now, guys. Artemis Fowl is a better movie than A Simple Favor.
We'll see.
I doubt
That one, Chief.
I doubt on that one.
All right, is that it?
Yeah, all right, that's it, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this episode of Cinemania. We cover a lot of different topics today. Adam turned into a robot. Out towards the end.
His true form.
Exactly. We talk about Celine Sciamma, Simple Favor, Mary and Max. This whole
Max and Ruby.
the whole trend. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Cinemania. My co-hosts.
Landon Roberts.
Adam Sheep.
That's Sam Goodred.
Have a great week, everybody. Stay safe. Watch some movies. All right. Goodbye.
Adam and
You have to stop the recording.